Yesterday she had been attempting to accommodate a fussy man who was flipping through her fabrics dismissively, disheveling her carefully folded stacks, mussing the samples hung neatly from the cross-poles, complaining that nothing was quite the right hue, and finding flaws and imperfections invisible to mere mortals. She had been on the verge of asking him if his mother had had the same keen eye, and if so, why she hadn't traded him away as a child to the slavers for a couple of chickens, all things considered, when she glanced up to see the boy. He was standing in the middle of the street, staring at her intently, looking as if he had just found something he hadn't realized he had lost. Pedestrians detoured around him. Cart drivers cursed him. How long he had been standing there watching her, she didn't know. Casually she brushed her fingers through her hair. The fresh white lily she had tucked there that morning was still in place. By the time the fussy man had moved along, to be disappointed by the farmer's fruits and cheeses, the boy was walking away, nearly out of sight. Sira had thrown a quick excuse to her mother and followed him. She trailed him through the bazaar and beyond, into the town's central square, in the middle of which was an elaborately carved marble fountain. As the boy passed it, he touched his fingers to his lips and raised his hand in a saluting kiss. Sira hadn't ventured as far as the square before, her family having arrived in town only a few days earlier. As she neared the fountain, she found herself slowing. It was hardly the largest or most ornate fountain she had ever seen, and she had seen many in her travels, yet the more closely she approached, the more captivated she became. Its lower tier was composed of 4 remarkably lifelike elephants, facing the 4 winds, water spouting from their trunks, each creature captured in its own motion and mood. The southerly elephant was stomping in agitation, trunk cocked high and to the side. The easterly animal was bracing defiantly, head lowered and ears back, trunk pointing outwards. She circled to the northerly creature, who bore its burden with resignation, its trunk swinging low. The westerly elephant was the youngest of the 4. It seemed eager to trot away at the first excuse, ears perked and flapping happily. She thought the elephants magnificent. She wanted to name them all and feed them, and ride the youngest to the sea, where they would sit together in the sand and eat pistachios, and watch the waves for hours on end. The elephants were positioned between 4 columns, each of which was exotically adorned with bundles of reeds, Egyptian motifs, and capitals of palm fronds. A herd of small antelope peered out from around the columns. Some nibbled on the reeds, others drank from the fountain's pool. The elephants and columns supported a wide spouted bowl, around the rim of which lounged the figures of 3 graceful girls of about Sira's age. One lay prone, her chin resting on her clasped hands as she admired her own reflection in the water below. Another was supine, her leg bent and raised at the knee, her arm hanging loosely off the side of the bowl's rim, her face to the sun. The third was sitting with her knees drawn to her chest, as she contemplated the fountain's central figure, which stood majestically on a stepped circular dais rising out of the upper pool. The rendering of the elephants, the antelope, and the 3 girls was so masterful as to be nearly beyond Sira's ability to grasp or accept. Surely these living, breathing beings had been turned to stone in an instant by the Gorgons, and they would spring to life again the moment the spell was broken. But when her gaze had risen to the top tier, she felt as if she herself might have come under the Gorgon's spell. Her feet were rooted to the spot where she stood. She couldn't take her eyes off of the figure of the woman above.